What up, what up, what up? This is Mike the Philosopher here with another one. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. The world is in an uproar. Why? Because Cleopatra in the new Netflix series is portrayed as being black. How outrageous is this? How could you portray a black woman as being Cleopatra? It's impossible. She was Greek, Mesopotamian, okay? How could you even come to the conclusion that she was a black woman? The history books say she was beautiful. How could that be black? How could it? Anyway, there are a lot of upset people out there that simply do not believe that she was black. Now, let's define black. Black could be a number of things. It could be mixed race. It could be one drop. It could be a lot of things. But you let another community tell it, she was not. But all that said, let's hear some of the thoughts of some of these people about Cleopatra.
يعني بالبساطة هذه كليوباترا المقدونية صاحبة البشرة الفاتحة تصبح
First thing I want to say is Cleopatra was never a black woman. Never. Does that look like a Greek woman to you? No!
I don't know why I thought this was fake, but it's real. Jada Smith really...
Okay, I'm tired of privileged African Americans born in one of the richest countries in the world using the millions of dollars from Hollywood to spread cultural appropriation propaganda.
It's inevitable.
So why would you do this?
Que esto no pretende ser una obra de ficción, se está presentando auténticamente como un documental, es decir, como una obra informativa.
And firstly, Cleopatra was not black. She was actually of Greek descent. She was Macedonian.
This trailer is just filled with inaccuracies.
Depicting Cleopatra as a black woman when she was absolutely just white. I'm a woman and I'm Egyptian. They're erasing me from the world. Why?
I went to college for history. I am going to rip this band-aid off. Cleopatra was not black. She was not an African queen. Egypt is part of the Middle East, and Cleopatra came from Greek heritage. I'm gonna settle this right now. Black people, if you give us white people Rosa Parks, we'll all be even.
Man, this happened 1, 2, 3 times too much.
That last one hurt a little bit. Okay. It's funny she used black people's music against them, but and she actually looked a little black herself, had some little mixed heritage in her. Look at her, look at her, look at her, look at her. She got some melanin in that system. But anyway, one thing I learned, everybody, is that when you don't want to learn something, you're not going to learn it. When you don't want to learn something, you're not going to learn it. You're not going to believe it. Okay? And the reason you're not going to believe it is because it goes against everything that you already know. This happens in politics. This happens in religion. With new information, you cannot change people's mind. Why? Because the idea of what they believe, they hold so high in a pedestal, new information is ignored completely and totally. Okay? And that's what I find. However, I have some new evidence for you And I'm about to show you. Check this out.
The carbon dating of the bones, the sex, build and age of the skeleton at the time of death, and the fact it belonged to someone of high birth point to one thing. Experts are now convinced that this skeleton is the first forensic evidence of Cleopatra's family ever found. The shape of the tomb, its similarity to the Pharos, these are all parts of a code, and the whole of it comes together to make a complete picture. At last, we can solve the mystery, beyond doubt, of who this skeleton actually is. None other than Cleopatra's sister, Arsinoe, Egyptian rebel, Queen of Egypt, murdered on the sacred ground of the Holy Temple of Artemis by Mark Antony on the orders of his lover. But of course, what we haven't known until now is what she looked like. Although the forensic team have only an incomplete skeleton, using our virtual template, we can now rebuild the skull. Hilke and Fabien thought the skull was lost forever, so I'm dying to see how they'll react.
We've been looking for the skull for a long time. And we don't have the real thing, but we've got the next best thing, which is a very exact replica.
Cool. Super.
And this is where it should be.
May we touch it?
Yeah, of course.
It's
of course.
No, it's cool.
This is really cool. Yeah.
Brilliant. Perfect.
It's really like looking in her face. Yeah. But this is quite another thing to have the skull of her in your hands.
Yeah.
This is a really enormous big feeling. Wow.
Well, it was worth bringing then.
Driving them home.
Yeah.
Yes. Super.
The forensic team are convinced they've proved beyond doubt that these are the bones of Princess Arsinoe. But rebuilding the skull has unlocked an incredible secret about her ancestry. Until recently, Cleopatra's dynasty was thought to be Greek, European, Caucasian. But some scholars now believe Cleopatra and her siblings had African blood. Could the answer be in this skull?
The distance from the forehead to the back of the skull is long in relation to the overall height of the cranium, and that's something that you see quite frequently in certain populations, one of which is ancient Egyptians. Another would be black African groups, will also show that characteristic. This one certainly looks more white European, but it has got this long head shape. It could suggest a mixture of ancestry.
Our revelation backs up the controversial theory that the princess, and therefore her sister Cleopatra, also had African blood.
And there you have it. Listen, like I said before, people only want to learn what they want to learn. If it goes against their ideas, they don't want to know. They will reject new information. They found the skeletal remains of her sister, Arsinoe. And some people say they had different mothers. They have no proof of that. They just say they have different mothers to get them away, get people away from them thinking that she was black. So they make up another mother, and there is no proof of another mother. They had the same mother. She was Princess Arsinoe, just like she was Princess Cleopatra. Same thing, same parents. Okay? The same. Even with skeletal remains showing African descent, people are not going to accept it. They are holding on to this Greek and Mesopotamian ideology as if she didn't have any African ancestry. There's a reason why they can't identify the mother. It's because they know the mother is black African. That's why she was written out of history. That's why she was written out of history, because the mother of Arsinoe and Cleopatra was black. Now, by all definitions of what's black, mixed ancestry is pretty much black by European standards. The one drop rule, okay? Even mixed people, they're looked at as being black, okay? And if nothing else, Cleopatra was mixed. I think she was 3/4 black. I think her father was mixed and her mother was all black African. Her father was mixed. Why? Because he came from the Ptolemaic dynasty. Well, his grandfather and so forth, they made it with the local women. Ask yourself something. What do conquerors of a nation do? They mate with the native women. Let me say that again. They mate with the native women. And the native women of Kemet was black. They were black. Same thing happened with Genghis Khan. He mated, once he conquered a nation, he mated with the native women. Same thing with the Moors, the black Moors. When they were in Italy, and when they were in Europe, they mated with the native women who were white. And Arab is not a race. Arab is a culture. Now, just my opinion, I think that Arab is nothing but a mixture of European and white people. Just Arabs are mixed race, but that's just my opinion. But the rest of this is scientific proof. Arsinoe was proven to be black through her skeletal remains. They had the same parents, her and Cleopatra. Cleopatra was also mixed. But here's another part of this that needs to get discussed. Even though Cleopatra was black by all standards of today, she would be viewed as black if she were alive today. I take no pride in Cleopatra. Okay? Some people say Cleopatra spoke Greek. That's not true. Cleopatra spoke about 8 different languages. Okay? Some people say she was Greek in ethnicity. It's not true. She wasn't what is known as Greek ethnicity today. She was not European. Some people say that Egypt is in Middle East. It's not true. Actually, the Middle East is a fictitious location designed to take you away from Africa. That's all the Middle East is. Okay? There's no Middle East continent. It's a fictitious area to get you away from Africa. Egypt is in Africa. It's on the continent of Africa. Why wouldn't the locals be African? Makes 0 sense. A lot of Europeans cannot handle the climate in Africa. Not saying it's impossible, but a lot of them can't stay there for very long. Okay? These people worship the sun in Egypt. White people don't like the sun like that. Okay? They don't like the sun like that. They were not European. But all that being said, let me say this. Arsinoe was proven to be black. Cleopatra, by association, is black. I think they found Cleopatra remains, but they refused to make it public because it would confirm she's black. I think they know who the mother of Cleopatra is, but she was written out of history because it would prove that she was black. There's a lot of corrupt history going on. And when the facts finally come out, people don't want to accept it. I think that Cleopatra was black. I think Cleopatra was a bit of a genius. I think she was very beautiful. I think she was very smart. I think she was very respected. But I also think that she was an opportunist, that she was a bit of a 304, and she was a bit of a sellout. Black people can take pride in her being black, but they have to live with the downside of her giving Kemet to the then enemies of Europe. Racism is not new. It was going on back then too. Europeans did not like Kemet, so they tried their best. Why did they not like Kemet? Because Kemet was more loved by everybody than Europe was. People loved, they studied in Kemet. Kemet was the New York of its time. Europe was the Mississippi of its time. No shade to anybody. Okay? Europe was jealous of Kemet and everybody in it, and they didn't like that, even though they got all their knowledge from there. So they tried to trash the people of the time. And the fact of the matter is, it was so loved, it got attacked so many times. A nation can only last for so long before they'd fall. It happened in the past. It happened, and it's happening now. Okay, nations are falling as I speak right now. And people have to realize that things like racism existed back then. They did not like the Kemetic people. And I noticed that European people don't even like to say the word Kemet. They like to say ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is Kemet. Call it what it was named. I can't stand the fact that they go around the name and call it ancient Egypt as if it didn't have a name for itself. It was Kemet. Now, why wouldn't they want to say Kemet? Well, because Kemet means black land, and that means black people. Black people were very proud of themselves back then. Black people built Kemet, which is now known as Egypt. black people had a sense of pride about themselves. Europeans did not like that. They probably looked at the Kemetic people as being arrogant. And they were very jealous. And they had their own religion. So what did the Europeans do? They created their religion, which is known as Christianity. And they put their Christianity against the Kemetic religion of Ra. And they stole everything out of the Kemetic religion and re-engineered it into Christianity. That's why Jesus has a son behind him in Christianity. It was originally Ra. The Virgin Mary, that was Isis. They stole everything and re-engineered it because they wanted people to love their religion as much as they loved the Kemetic religion. And they created a word called pagan, that anything that is not Christian is pagan, which is derogatory, to steer you away from the Kemetic religion. Now everything that is looked at that is not Christian is looked at as pagan, and everybody, even black people, look at pagan as being a lesser religion. So it worked. But to stick with the topic, Cleopatra was black. Her sister Arsinoe was black. Their brothers were black because they had two brothers. And their mother was black. And their father was mixed. And even though Cleopatra was viewed as beautiful and intelligent, she also handed the ancient world and Kemet to the wrong people. Some may have pride in the race, but I don't have pride in her accomplishments. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.